Alrighty, what do we got going on here today? Oh no, FLSUN. Ah. Hey everybody, Steve here from The Varied Life, and today we're going to talk about the FLSUN T1. It is no, I have left, okay, let me collect myself. The FLSUN is a Delta style printer company, and they put out some information about new Delta style printers that they had coming out, saying they were going to be the fastest and the most best flow rate, and it was going to put everybody to shame. And the build area and the specs and all this stuff was just like going to be incredible. It was going to be the bamboo killer, is basically, if you looked at the specs and you're like, damn, I'm going to get the FLSUN S1. Now, we've seen some pretty bad reviews on the S1 with people who have actually done some real in-depth testing in regards to flow rate, in regards to speed. And again, we've talked about the speed claims of 3D printing companies and their products, kind of like the maximum speed in the best possible situation in very small certain circumstances. And things that you will not run into as a daily driver. It's kind of like buying a car and it says, oh, the top speed is 200 miles an hour. But in your daily driving, you're not going to be going 200 miles an hour. You know, if you did, you would go to jail and things crash and burn. And apparently that's what we're seeing with the S1. Well, I ended up seeing that the S1, I almost bought it. My mantra is don't buy something that comes right out of the gate, because there will always be problems. And if there are problems, they might get fixed. In the worst case scenario, they might not. And you're left with an expensive brick. That seems to be the case with the FLSUN S1. A lot of other people like Clo42, GYK3D, I think that's his name, ended up doing reviews. They were sent the machines by FLSUN, and they found problems with dimensional accuracy. They found problems with the profiles. They found problems with the software. They found problems with the clipper. They found problems with the specs, and said, well, hey, you claim to be this fast and this flow rate and this and this and this. And one of them, I think it was Clo32 or anyway, it ends up that they found out that you can request to go fast or request to have a great flow rate, but what you actually get is not what you actually get. And so that is very problematic. And again, the profiles, the problems, dimensional accuracy, the quotes on saying, well, hey, this is the build height and the build area, and people are finding out that, it's not what is advertised at all. And, the hardware is great. Software and the integration seems to be the problem, because they're not spending the money on getting the software and the profiles and getting that whole thing under control. Well, it ends up that the T1 has come out. Now, in case you didn't know what the T1 was, the T1 is the smaller brother of the FLSUN S1. And it was interesting because I saw this gentleman here from, Elevated Systems. That's his YouTube channel. And he received the FLSUN T1. And he went through a bunch of problems, and it's in a kit form. So when you build this thing, it comes to you in a kit. It's not as big and bulky as the S1. So there's some assembly went fairly well. It did some tests, and there were some problems. Now, it had a lot of problems. The machine ended up dying, and firmware crashes, software crashes. Eventually, it just became a big brick. He was able to get some good prints on it, but then again, he had a bunch of prints that did not come out well. And of course, there was problems with the build area. There was problems with the quality, as far as the specs and everything. Build quality, some stuff was good, some stuff was bad, but again, comparison to things like the Bamboo X1C or other people that have done comparison between FLSUN and their X1C, the A1, the A1 Mini, or even the P series that Bamboo has, it's kind of like, you might get some good prints and you might not. The S1, you'll print out an 8-minute benchy and it'll be okay. In some cases it looks pretty good, but in other cases it's like, and with the T1 it ends up that the benchy was 10 minutes and it didn't, it was a benchy, it was there, but definitely seen Bamboo machines and other companies with their machines produce better benchies, albeit they will be slower. But then again, you're going to have that balance of speed and quality, and speed kind of kills the quality once you reach a certain threshold. This is a picture of failed print, and obviously the AI detection and things were having problems. He went through, had firmware crashes and all this, and he couldn't recommend this. And I wanted to take a look at this because this is kind of interesting, and this just kind of highlights another red flag for FLSUN. And if my internet connection will get onto this. Seriously, come on. There we go. Come on. Okay. So here is an interesting little graphic. And this is on the box of the T1. And it shows the S1, which is 2023 to 2024, same thing with the T1. Of course, actually, the S1 came out first, and then it was the T1 is being released, and we're seeing a lot more problems with the T1 than we have with the S1, but they're still problematic. The problem is the software is not meeting up with the hardware. In other words, the hardware part of the machine is really good, but the software integration and making good profiles and all of this stuff is just not at the level it should be for companies that are producing 3D printers today, let alone whether they're Delta style printers or Core XY or bed slingers or whatever. It's just, and here's some of the problems. Cloud42 ended up showing how he got a bunch of comments on his video saying, oh, well, they're pushing the edge of technology. And statistically, it was impossible that you would get this many comments. So he thinks that bots were involved or people that were involved with FLSUN left these comments. And then suddenly all the comments disappeared. But he got screen captures. So, go figure. And the profiles on the YouTube pages for these commenters were very questionable. Let's put into layman's terms. Didn't seem like they were real. Just saying. Now, each of these comments, and I've seen it on other videos as well, of saying, hey, well, they're pushing the edge of technology. They're breaking the barriers of speed. So you're going to experience ups and, some bumps in the road and blah, blah, blah. And, they're bringing it, they're almost making it sound like FLSUN is just coming into the market and we should give them some slack because they're doing something that they haven't done before. That's where this box comes into play because we can go back. This is a timeline of 2023 to 2024, 2022 to 2023 with their 400, and then their SR, which is 2020 to 2021, the Q5, which is 2018 to 2019, and their original QQS, which was back in 2016. Yes, 2016. And if we go back, that before they put out their QQS Delta style printer, it had to be a couple of years, at least a year from kind of what we're seeing, about a year of what we're seeing between all of the different models. So we're looking at 2015 is when they were working on the QQS, and 2015, that's like what, 9 years from now in the past? And we're 9 years forward. It's almost a decade, and they still haven't got their collective caca in. The shit's not working, is what it comes down to. It's not like they're a new kid on the block, and it's not like, oh, this is our first foray into the world of 3D printing. So you can expect some software and firmware problems, and we'll get those all ironed out. As we're pushing the edge of technology because we're a new company. No, this company is almost a decade old. And yeah, it could be a decade old. So for the last 10 years, we're seeing a commonality of their software is not doing and meeting up to the high quality of the hardware. Now, their hardware is great. Delta style printers are really good. They are definitely faster because of the way that they're built and so on and so forth. But the problem is that through this timeline that we end up seeing with this here is you've had 8, 9, 10 years to get your software side of the house up to speed, and you haven't. And there's been a lot of problems in the past. And yes, people have dialed in their V400s or their SR or their Speed Racer or their Q5 or the QQS. But you don't hear anything about the QQS or the Q5. Maybe the Speed Racers a little bit, but the V400s, there's people that have done videos that say, yeah, you really need to dial these in. There's lots of problems. But once you get them dialed in, it's a good machine. But the problem is that they're promoting their newer machines as being something to the point of where unbox it and boom, you can do an 8-minute benchy. Unbox it, boom, you can do a 10-minute benchy, and it's just kind of this plug and play type of mentality thing. Oh, by the way, it's super fast, faster than anything else, and the build area is awesome. And what we're finding is the speed in reality isn't matching to the advertised claims. We're seeing the build area is smaller than what has been advertised. So basically, as many other people have put it, they've outright lied. And the flow rate, you can only get it in a certain instance. And matter of fact, there are some users on the S1 who did flow rate tests that could not reproduce the flow rate results, even with the test piece that FLSUN provided, saying that on this test piece, we got this 110 flow rate and users were not able to reproduce those results. So very, very problematic, very problematic. Instead of having over the last 8 to 10 years of fine-tuning the software and hiring people to get this stuff under control, FLSUN has showed that they're just pushing out products. They're pushing out products to make money, and with high hopes and massive failures and problems with profiles and software and firmware and so on and so forth. And in a sense, the users that were promised a machine of certain specs are not getting the machine that meet those specs, and they end up becoming the beta testers. And we're way past that time. If maybe 10 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, 5 years ago, yeah, we could kind of see that where people ended up, hey, we'll work through this and we'll get this going because we're a new company. But yeah, this company's been around for almost 10 years now. I'm very, very disappointed in FLSUN and the T1 review that I saw, and the fact that the machine ended up being a brick. First, they had the firmware crashes, the elevated systems, and his YouTube page, the one that we just looked at, and it ended up having firmware crashes, so I had to stop it, shut it down, turn it back on, shut it down, turn it back on, do a restart, full-blown restart, and then it was able to work, and then eventually it ended up crashing again, and eventually it had a full meltdown, so it wouldn't even start up again. It just became a giant brick. And I think this thing is like $500. Yeah, it just ends up being like a $500 brick. And that's not something that we want to buy. If your thing is about printing a fast benchy, get a Voron, there's a number of other things that you can print fast if that's all you want to do is print fast. But if you want consistent quality out of your prints, that what we're seeing with like Bamboo and some other companies, Prusa and so on and so forth, there's a handful of companies that are leading the forefront of the 3D printing world for FDM. There's a lot better choices. And while I was initially, and I've got some background in electronics, and so I was pretty excited about FLSUN and the specs, but now it just seems like they're just digging that hole and they're digging the hole deeper and deeper. And seeing the problems that they had with the S1 should have paused them to give them pause and say, hey, we need to get our collective shit together with the T1 before we release it. Otherwise, we're going to get the same type of reviews, and they didn't. They just kept pushing. They just kept pushing. They pushed the T1 out, and what are we getting? Now we're getting, bad reviews on the T1. Of course, this gentleman who did the review, whom FLSUN sent him the T1 or said, hey, we'll send it back and we'll fix it and we'll send you another one. That's not where we're at in 2024. That is not normal. That is not the way the companies are supposed to be doing today. And unfortunately, it just puts FLSUN in a bad light. And again, I did a video where I was talking about where FLSUN is dead to me. This is just another nail in the coffin because it's like, more problems. They should have learned from the S1 and all the problems that they had with the S1 with multiple reviewers that they themselves sent machines to. And now we have the same thing and even the person that we just looked at when he did his review and he was putting the T1 together, he noticed that there was cosmetic issues, so it seems like this had been put together before. Did he get a used machine? Was it? It just doesn't look good. Doesn't look good for FLSUN. And again, you would expect this with a newer company, but again, this company's been around for 8, maybe even 10 years. So yeah, just very, very problematic. Doesn't look good for FLSUN. And another nail in the head as I thought, well, maybe I had a little glimmer of hope as thinking that FLSUN would say, okay, we saw what happened with the S1. If we wait and hold off on the T1 and we get our stuff together and we, from the lessons learned from the S1, and we take those lessons learned and we, let's hold back the T1 and make sure that we put out a good product, make sure that we get good firmware and so on and so forth, profiles, but they haven't. And that just goes to show, and they continued with the S1 and people saying, yeah, you're not going to get that 430 build height, you're going to get like 385. That would make me, if I was the owner of a company and I saw that, hey, the machine that I sent out to people and they're saying, hey, the advertised build height is not what it is, this is what it is, I would be like, okay, well, the T1 is basically the little brother, so let's double check the build height area and see if we're going to have problems like the people with the S1 showed. But they didn't do that. They're pushing the T1 out the door, which just shows that they are not concerned with a high-quality product. They want to get a passable product, and the users are going to be the beta testers. So unfortunately, that's what we're seeing with the T1. And we're going to see some other reviews of the T1 that are going to come out, and some people are probably going to have some good prints, but again, it depends on who you look at and who does the review and how in-depth of testing that they're doing. There's a lot of people that will just kind of, do the benchy, do the included files that are on the machine. But when you start getting into daily driver activity as using something to producing good quality prints that are even just using the advertised specs, we're not getting that. And so it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. Very problematic. It'll be interesting to see some other reviews. But again, I've already crossed off FLSUN from my list of reliable companies because I just can't find them being reliable, especially the problems that they had with the S1, and now they have the same problems and apparently worse with some machines. On the T1, they didn't ratchet back and say, hey, let's regroup and make sure that let's stop this we'll fix everything that we can from the S1 to the T1, the lessons learned. But no, they didn't. It's just kind of crazy. So anyway, I just want to do a quick video on that. The one thing I do have hope for is Bamboo. Bamboo is looking to put out, according to Bamboo themselves, maybe third quarter, fourth quarter this year, a large area build area printer or a large build area printer with multiple print heads, and obviously an AMS system. So yeah, I'm kind of waiting for that, because I figure I'm going to buy once, cry once, and if I had bought the S1, I would definitely be crying. If I bought the T1, I would definitely be crying, because the consistency is not there like we see with Bamboo and Prusa and other companies. So yeah, while it may be fast in doing certain things, when it comes to quality and consistency in their products and the things that they put out, I don't think FLSUN they're not meeting the bar. They set the bar high, and then people are finding out that the build area and all these other problems, they're just not good. So anyway, put what you think in the comments down below, what you think about FLSUN and how they could improve their product. What are the lessons learned from the S1? And is it something, definitely not my cup of tea with all the problems that they have. Is it your cup of tea? Who would the FLSUN S1 and the T1 be good for? It's got to be good for somebody, because people are buying them up. For the life of me, it's not for me, but if any of you have some insight onto who would buy this thing, put that in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as we're retired here in Korea and doing 3D printing stuff, and I'm on the hunt for a larger build area 3D printer, but I only want to buy once, and I only want to cry once. I don't want to cry multiple times like I've seen with the S1, and now that we're starting to see with the T1. I don't have enough tissues for that. So anyway, we'll leave you with that, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.